What's up, everybody? Mr. Porkchop back here with another video. Today's video is going to be on classes in Python. It's chapter 9 in this Python crash course book that I've been going over. But before we get into it, I'd just like to ask if you guys are new here, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can see my future videos. I put out a video at least once a week, and it's all computer science related. Right now, I'm doing a lot of Python videos, but I've done JavaFX videos, C++ videos, stuff on just like virtual machines and Linux, pretty much anything that you would really have an interest in if you're a computer science student like myself. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, I do encourage comments. Comment on the videos if you just want to say what's up, or if you got any suggestions or requests, questions, whatever. I try to get back to everybody that comments, and I really like interacting with my viewers. So that's pretty much it. We'll get into this video now. All right, so I'm gonna make a very simple class. It's just gonna be a person, and the person's gonna have two attributes basically, which are gonna be name and age. And as I construct this class, I'll do my best to try to explain in my own words what I read in the book. So yeah, so you just basically type class and then whatever the name of the class you want, and then put a colon, hit enter, and below it is where we're gonna do some definitions. So this is just for same with the functions, but you're just going to define it's similar to a method, but I guess from what I read in the book, these are called methods instead of functions. And I guess the only difference really is that a method is a function used inside a class, from what I remember reading. And you'll see like how I pressed the parentheses and it kind of auto-filled for me. That's just the IDE kind of doing its thing. And self is the first thing that comes up. Apparently self needs to be the first parameter inside of these methods. Um, and this particular method is going to be your initial method, which I think is what that stands for. I don't know if it always, I mean, I'm assuming you could probably change the name in between these, but the double underscore in the front and the back is unique, and it is basically letting the Python compiler know like that this method is going to be called anytime you use an instance of this class. So that is why there's a double underscore on both sides of this particular method. And this method is going to have basically any parameters inside of here are going to be like the attributes for your class. And like I said, for this particular one, we're going to do name and we're going to do age. So that is going to be our initial method for our class. And then below that, we are just going to go ahead and do self.name equals name and self.age equals age. And what that does is, again, this is a way to kind of pass information when you use an instance of this class. The parameters that you put inside of here that you give it are going to be passed to your class, that instance of that class. So when you use person, you're gonna, well, I'll show you in a second, but that's the best I can kind of explain it for now. But you'll see a little bit exactly what it does. And then we can do some other functions in here that are not going to be like the unique ones, not like that initial one. These ones don't need the double underscore. They're just going to be, usual methods or functions. Again, I'm gonna try to just stick with calling them methods because they're in a class and that's what they should be referred to. But you can think of them like in a similar way as functions because they do all the same things. So this one is just going to print some stuff out for us. Basically, all of our functions right now are going to are just going to do print functions because it's just easier right now. So that's just going to print something out with the name of the person and just saying that they are now walking. And then we're going to do one more definition down here. And we're going to do jump. It kind of, again, it autofills self for you. Self has to be the first one in all these methods because when, in order to call the method or use the method, it needs to be, self has to be part of that. So just know that. And again, if you're using IntelliJ or any other IDE, most likely it's going to auto-populate that for you. All right, so that is going to be our first class, basically. And this class is just, again, has two attribute, name and age, and has a couple different methods inside of here. We have initial method, which is going to be called when we, in any instance of this person class, and we have also two other methods here, which is walk and jump. Now, the way we can use these is simply by creating an instance of this class. So we can say we'll create a variable here that is just going to be called me, and that is going to be of the person class. And you don't have to pass self because self is going to be passed automatically, and you can see here in all of our parameters it shows up in purple highlighted, and that's again just showing that that one is a little different. So the only things we need to pass here are a name, so we'll do Mr. Pork Chop, and an age. We'll throw that out there, 32. I'm getting old. All right, so that will create a instance of our class, and me will be the variable that holds that instance. And if we want to access our methods inside of that, all we got to do is use me dot, and then we can put name, age. Name and age won't actually do anything. It's basically just going to be either our name or our age, but if we wanted it to show up, we would have to put it inside of a print statement. However, jump, for instance, if we use that, we'll actually print something because that method is calling like a print method. So if we run this, for instance, it's basically going to say Mr. Porkchop is now jumping because I created an instance of person class. I gave it the name of Mr. Porkchop, and I called the jump method below there. And you can create multiple instances of the same class. So we could we'll just call him someone, and then we'll do person. Just call him Paul and say he's 18. And then we can use the same methods as well. Or we could do, let's just do like a print statement here. And we could do something like this. We'll do someone name. All right, so we will go ahead and run that. And you can see that it prints out a statement basically saying that Paul is friends with Mr. Porkchop and is only 18 years old. And again, 18 and Paul and Mr. Porkchop were all basically taken from the class itself. You know, I didn't write that in. I just invoked the method, or basically the class. I used name, which is one of the attributes that it has in here, and that's why we have these. The self.name and age, self.age. If we didn't have this below here, then it wouldn't have access to what we passed it. So that's why we put these two here so that we have access to the name and the age that we pass it in the instance that we create. And then I also right here still called the jump method, so it still has Mr. Porkchop jumping. So I think that kind of gives you guys somewhat of an idea of how to create a simple class the attributes and the kind of the overall layout, and then how to invoke kind of instances of that class and use the methods that are inside of that class. All right, so obviously it's a new day, new outfit, pretty much done with everything here. We're going to create a whole new class. And for this class, I'm going to keep it very similar to the example that they give in the book, which is creating a car class. So we're going to create a car class. And again, we're going to have our initial method, which is going to have self, and then we'll give it just the make and model and year of the car. And then of course we're just going to do self make equals make, and then self model, whoops, equals model, and then self year equals year. That way we can pass along the information that we want. And then we're going to create one more method inside of our class, and this method is going to be get, I'm going to steal this right from the book, and it just says get descriptive name. So that's going to be our method, and of course what it's going to do is just return a descriptive name of the vehicle that we create. So we'll just have down here name, and that is going to be equal to pretty much just a long string, and we'll have self dot make or yeah, I guess we'll do year first because that's technically kind of how you should format it, and that's the way the book has it here, so we'll do that. All right, and then what it has below that is just returning the actual name. So we're going to return name. They have it in like title. I guess we could do that just so that it's all capitalized and looks nice. So we'll do that. And in this case, we're not having the method itself. We're not having the method itself print this for us. We're actually just returning basically a string. So you'll see a little bit later when we use this, we're going to have to put this get descriptive name method inside of a print statement in order for it to actually print what it's returning. But for now, that's good. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So below that, we can actually use an instance of the car class. So I'll create a variable just called my car, and I'll set it equal to a car, and then excuse me, I will go ahead and put in my car. So I have a let's see, we're going to do make model year, so we have to put it in the same, and it highlights it for you here so you can see what you need to put in. So it is a Nissan, and Nissan Rogue 2015. That will be my car. And then what we can do below that is we can create our print statement, and our print statement is just going to do my car dot get descriptive name, because that is the method inside of my, the car class that will print our descriptive name. So if we run this and everything's right, it should. Oh, there's an issue on line 13. It doesn't like this. Nissan is not defined. I wonder if I need to actually, I might have to actually put these in as strings. And I can keep that a number. Let's try that. There we go. So that was my bad. I gave it something that it didn't really know what it was, so I had to make sure that I made those strings. But you can see it created the class. It created an instance of the car class, my car, with the attributes that I picked for it to have, and then our method did work. It returns the actual year, name, and well, the make and model of the car. So that is just another example of creating a class with some methods and how to use instances of that class and the methods inside of it. All right, so another thing we can do here is we could add a default or add another attribute that is going to have like a default value. So we'll do self dot miles, and then we're going to have it equal to, I'm trying to think, what did I use in the example? We'll just have it equal 0 for now, because I think that's what they had it equal in there. Yeah, so we have that, and then we're going to have a definition down here to get the miles. And below that, it will just say basically, just have a return. Actually, I guess we'll put this one into an actual print statement. Oops. All right, that's probably all right. So that'll give us how many miles we actually have on it. And let's just test that out real quick. Make sure it gives us 0. So we'll do my car dot get miles, and we'll run it again. Okay, I got some issues here. Miles is not defined. I wonder if I gotta do self miles. I think I may have messed that up. Yeah, there we go. So I just forgot to put self in there inside my method. Okay, so that all works. Now we have this car at 0 miles on it, but we want a way to modify that. And one way you could modify that is from when it's set over here, you can modify it directly just by going like my car dot miles equals, like, I think you can put whatever you want in here. So we'll try 2. Let's see if that, yeah, and then it's 2 miles. But that way is kind of weird. Probably not the best way to do it, but you can modify it directly like that if you wanted to. The other way we have is through creating a method that actually updates the mileage. So for that, we will go back inside of our class, and we will create, I'm just gonna make a little space here. We will go ahead and create another definition for update miles, and that's going to have self, but we're also going to give it a second attribute of miles. Maybe I'll just put mile. Yeah, whatever. I think we can use miles. Probably won't matter. And then below that, we can have it do self dot miles equals miles. All right, and that will update it. Yeah, so that way instead of you can use that method whenever you want to update it. So you can do like my car dot update miles, and then we can put 30 in there. And then if we print it, it should give us 30. Yeah, so now it's 30. So you can create a separate method just for updating that, which is probably the ideal way to do it. Or you could just, like I said, try to change it directly. Okay, some of the other things it's doing here is it kind of messes around with some of these methods. Let me pull this down a little bit. Actually, I'm gonna move myself over here so I'm not in the way of what's printed out. Okay, so we can modify our update miles to instead of just um, basically changing it to whatever we put in. If we put a plus here, then it will take what we originally had and it'll just add on the new mileage. Um, that way it increments it, so you can just keep changing the mileage and it'll keep going up. You can also add like an if-else statement inside of this if you wanted to prevent it from going backwards. Um, that's something they did in the book. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to make an if-else statement right now for that. I don't think it's really necessary. But let's go ahead and try this again, and we'll do my car, update mileage, and the other thing that was cool is if you put an underscore, that's basically kind of like a comma in a number, so that'll be 20,000 miles, and then like you can update it again and just add on like maybe another 5,000. So this should give me 25,000 altogether. And if we really want to see it, maybe we could just do my car.get miles in between. So now you can see it says this car has 2,000 miles on it, and then it says this car has 2,500 or 25,000 miles on it. So that's the way you can kind of increment it. You can play around with these methods and you can do a lot inside of them. All right, so I erased some of the stuff from the previous video that I had, but we left off basically having just shown how to iterate things inside of a method, basically, so that we could continue adding miles to our vehicle. We're going to do a few new things now. The last thing I'm going to touch on in this chapter is basically something called inheritance and basically creating a class from a class. You're going to see this a lot in coding in different languages. Whatever language you do, you're going to see classes, subclasses are what they're called, or child classes that are going to be created from other classes. Now you might have noticed I did change the class name from car to vehicle, and I'm going to make a subclass of the vehicle class. And to do that, you basically just start out similar to creating a class. I'm going to call this one truck, but this time you're going to put parentheses, and you put the class, the parent class that you're going to be using or modeling after inside those parentheses. From there, you are going to go ahead and do your initial definition again. So you can do that, and we will keep the same attributes for now, make, model, and year. Now, when you go to define this one, instead of going self and listing out all of the different definitions, what you're going to do is go ahead and type super parentheses dot, and then you're going to go ahead and do the same exact setup that you had from the class that you want to copy from. So let me back up a second here. The whole super dot right here, this is what comes from saying like subclasses and superclasses. So your parent class, which in our case would be vehicle, would be called basically the superclass. That's why you do super dot, and then you are taking basically the initial method from this class and using it as the definition for your subclass or your child class here, truck. So instead of having to write all this out again, you basically just say super dot, and then all of this is basically put there for you. Now, after you do that, if you want to add additional attributes or change the value of certain attributes, you can do that below. So for this one, for fuel type, which was something I added before I started recording, it wasn't in the previous video, but it was just something I added because I figured it was cool to show that you can change the value of your attributes if you would like to. So we can just change that to diesel for our trucks. The other thing that you can do inside your superclasses, if they're, and all right, let me just start by saying this. So what this does is it takes the entire class, the vehicle class, and it gives basically the same definition to this one. So your child class truck is going to inherit all of the same methods, attributes that you have in your parent class. So you don't have to worry about this. It has access to all this. You can use all these methods and all these attributes inside your truck. What you can do though, if you want to, if one of these methods doesn't do what you want it to for the child class, then what you can do is basically just redefine it inside of here. So let's say that get descriptive name doesn't really do what we want it to do inside a truck. So instead of returning it, what we can do is just have it directly print it for us. And again, this is just kind of an example. There are going to be times when you take stuff, when you basically make a child class, and there are going to be methods inside of the parent class that just don't even make any sense for the child class. So in those cases, you would want to override any method inside of your child class from the parent class that doesn't work or doesn't make sense in your child class. So like I said, in this example, I will just basically override my get descriptive name, and instead of having it return it, I will have it actually just do a print statement and print out the actual name. Okay, so this is our child class, and this is our parent class. They are pretty much the same for now. Like I said, you can modify them quite a bit. One thing to keep in mind is when you create a subclass, it must come below, it must be in the same module as your parent class, and it must come below the parent class. So you got to make sure that you have that, or it won't work. And before we go ahead and start, writing, making some instances of these classes, what I'm going to do is, you can see I created another file up here already called vehicle py, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and move these over to that. So I'm going to cut that. I think I already have, all right, I already have vehicle, I already have this. I think it's all the same. Oops, just close my main one. Alright, so what we can do is I'm going to go ahead and just take this vehicle class right out of my main method. And you can see over here in my vehicles file, this module now has my vehicle class and my child class truck. And what you can do once you have your classes, if you have them in a separate module, you can import them. So you can do from vehicle import, and I will just do vehicle, because that is the class that I want to import. I'll do vehicle and truck. So this is, again, I made a I made a video last week on functions, and the import, when you import functions, it works, or when you import classes, it works the same as importing functions. So all the same rules apply. If you guys want to go watch that video, you can. I'm going to give a very brief description of what I went through in that video in here, but I'm not going to show all the different examples I did in that video. So if you want to see it, I'll link it in the description as well, and if you guys want to see it. But basically, you can do from vehicle, which is the file name, import the classes that I want. You could also just do an asterisk instead of these two, and that'll import everything. You can also just go like import vehicle, import the entire file. You can use aliases as well, so you can do from vehicle, import vehicle as, and then you can give it whatever name you want. But again, for now, I'm just going to leave it like that. And now we can make any kind of instance from those classes. So I can do my car, which is going to be a vehicle. All right, so we'll go ahead and make a actual instance of our vehicle class, and we'll just call this Nissan Rogue and 2015. We will also make an instance of truck called my truck, and for this one we'll just call it a Ford F-150, and I'll make this one a little newer, like 2020. All right, and now we have two basic, we have two instances of our classes. We have one of the vehicle and one of the truck. And then in this file, we can see the different methods that we have access to. Now, again, we overrode the get description method for the truck. So if we go ahead and we do my truck dot get descriptive name, descriptive name. I think that's all I did. All right, so it did work. I don't know why that didn't auto-populate, but you can see that the dot get descriptive name method for my truck just prints it out. However, if I try that for car, because car is set up to not actually print it, it's just set up to return it, you're going to see that it won't actually print anything for car. If I do this, it still just does that. However, if I put my car inside of a print statement, now it actually prints the car. So basically just kind of giving you guys an idea of how the method was overridden in my child class versus my parent class, and how these two kind of work differently. Also, while we're on the while we're on the topic of importing classes, the Python actually has its own standard library of classes that you can use. So you could import, like they have an example here from the random class. Basically, this is a class directly from the Python standard library, and what it does is it basically just picks a random number between two integers. So you give it an integer and it'll pick a random integer in between those two, or one of those two. So if we go ahead and print this, oops, I guess I need to actually put that in a print statement so we can see it. So it should return a random number between 1 and 10. You can see it returned 1, and if you run it again, it should give you different outcomes. Yeah, there's a 9. So it's just randomly generated. There are other standard libraries that you guys can look up, and you can import certain classes or functions, methods, all that stuff. You can import different things. So if you want more on that, maybe just kind of Google some things. The book doesn't really go into depth on any of those yet. I think that's all I'm going to really cover in this video, though. This is already kind of lengthy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys have been enjoying these Python videos and learning a lot with me. The next chapter that we are on is chapter 10, which is going to be files and exceptions. So make sure to subscribe, click the notification bell for future videos. And if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate the like. Leave me some comments too on what you guys want to see next. Like I said, I'm getting close to finishing up this book, and then we'll see where we go from there.